As some of you may know, I'm a big fan of fake nails, nail enhancements, but I love it when they look naturally nude. Those are beautiful and natural, but all fake. I'm going to show you how to mix within the brand to create a very natural look. Let's get started. Okay, so I have done all 4 of the other fingers, and I've left one for us to do together. So I have removed everything, and I always do that when I'm working with a natural or a nude color, because if you have something under there, it could change the color of what you're trying to put on, especially if it's a translucent in any way. You might see it, so get rid of all of it. So I did soak these in acetone to get rid of all of it, right down to the bare natural nail. And I've just buffed this guy up ever so gently with one of my medium files. I've got quite a collection going now. I've got my aprons, my brush and file, which I also sell separate, and my new acrylic collection. And that's what I'm going to use today, mixing 2 of my favorite colors together to create a beautiful natural look. So I haven't a primer available yet. We are just working on packaging, but I have it here and I'm going to use it. Okay, and just be careful you're not touching the skin with your primer. Okay, and I'm going to put on a form. I'm making my, Susie shape. I'm in love with that right now. And I have got a nice form that I'm going to work with. Now, of course, we start off pretty much every nail that we're building with either some sort of platform. In my case, I almost always use a form unless I'm showing you something different, like a tip or something. And that placement is very crucial as to where it goes, but I've got a lot of videos on that, and I will be getting more in depth on that as well. Okay, me happy with that. So I'm going to mix my colors. I've got a foundation pink and a pink tint. The one pink tint is see-through-ish, and the foundation pink is a little bit more heavy opacity, quite a bit if you use them straight out of the pots themselves. But I'm going to mix the 2 together, and there is a certain ratio. The reason why I like to do this, when you have clientele, I like to do it as a nail technician because it customs the color and I can make it unique to every client, or at least to me, putting it on every client. So they can only get that color with me. If I'm making a color for a client, I love to mix within brands to create that special color that they're looking for. And in this case, we're doing a very soft, natural nude. It's going to be somewhat see-through. You can see in the photo in the beginning that it's somewhat see-through to create that natural look. But there is a combination. I'm going to start with Susie's pink tint, and that will be the majority of it. So I'm just going to cover the bottom. You don't want to do a ton just in case you don't like the color. You may want to start again, but you can also just add until you get the combination that you want. Look how much I'm covering. Like, it's just sort of covering half the bottom. So if I spread it out, it's just covering the bottom because I'm only doing 1 finger. And if you don't have to mix a whole tub, you don't want to waste it. And then I'm going to get the Susie's foundation pink, which is much more opaque. And I'm just going to add a little bit of this stuff, maybe 20%. Just going to give it a little shake of color. I'm going to get a mix, like a cuticle stick. And I'm just going to give it a mix about, and I'm going to slap a lid on it and give it a good shake. So I can really, really mix up the color. Now, if you didn't mix up the color, you could create a sort of a marble look. And if that's what you're going for, that's totally cool. But in this case, it's not what I'm going for. I'm looking for a real solid 1 color over the whole nail, but because there's no nail on the underside, it's going to create a very natural look, having a little bit of see-throughness on the other side. And that'll make a difference in how much. You could start with the foundation pink and add a little bit of this, but the foundation pink is going to be so much stronger that you're going to see mostly that. So I would start with this if you're looking for a see-through look. Start with the Susie's pink tint, and then just add a little bit of the foundation, which is the opacity. Okay. Now I did mix a color. I did keep it. Let me just make sure it's the same. Actually, they're not quite the same. And I see it's got a little bit, I wanted to mix it for you so you could see it. And I'm going to mix a little bit more of the foundation pink to match the one that I previously made, so it'll match these previous nails. I mean, I can go ahead and use that, but I kind of wanted to show you what we mixed together to get the closest one that we're looking for. And I really like it. It looks really good. And the reason why we use an opacity of foundation pink, some companies call it cover pink, Ugly Duckling calls it foo-foo pink. The reason why we do that is because we want a nice, that's why I called it foundation pink, because it's causing a nice smooth tone over top of the whole nail to give it a nice smooth look, as like foundation does for our face. Okay, that's looking pretty good now. I still think it's a little bit. So let's say 25%, okay? Maybe 30, but you can just play with it a little. You'll find the one that you like. And if I put these two on two different nails, you might not see the difference in color, and you might. It's interesting. You can get 2 bottles of nail polish and notice how they look exactly the same in the bottle. But then when you paint them on, you're like, oh, I can see a slight difference in the shade, and you can see the difference, and that's why they made the 2 different colors. But when it's solid like that, sometimes you can't see the difference. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So sometimes what I'll do, if I mixed a color specific for a client, I will actually label it on the side or the bottom or the top somewhere to know that I made that color for Susie. And I know when that person comes in, I can put that on them if they like that color every single time. And a lot of clients do. And you may be one of those. Okay, just gonna grab my tube for a nice balance. Okay, now we need some monomer. We just need the tiniest little bit, you guys. This stuff is slow evaporation, super slow, so you don't need much. If you're going to do the whole hand, I would suggest a half a capful, if that even. But just one little nail here, don't need much at all. I just did literally a blip. And I got me brush. Now, one thing you can get really jiggy if you want, and I could put the pink powder, the pink tint here, and I could put the new stuff on the end, but this will create that sort of natural look because the solidness of this underneath when I put this color on here and the see-throughness of this when it hits the free edge will create that very natural look. Okay, I'm getting my brush nice and wet. Now, when you're working specifically with my new system, it is very slow setting and it's meant to help you with your beads because it's very hard to create a bead when you're using a faster set system. It cures so fast you don't get a chance to actually shape it, but this will help you shape it and learn those beads. And you can use this through your whole career if you like, if you're not looking to have any odor whatsoever. This is excellent for that. Okay, so I'm getting it nice, getting my brush nice and conditioned. And I'm going to tap off a lot of the monomer because I don't need so much. And I'm going to rest inside my powder for between 4 to 6 seconds. And I'm going to grab a nice little bead and I'm going to place that bead. Now I'm doing the whole nail the one color so you don't have to do it in patches. You can start at the end and work up toward the cuticle, or you can start at the cuticle and work back. Now as this monomer is working, it's still moving together, but very, very slowly. And what you want to do is as it's gently moving onto your nail, you want to coax it ever so gently to where you want it to go. And this is actually a perfect size bead for this cuticle area. See how it's just flowing into there perfectly. I am now with the lightest touch possible. I am just going to feather it. Any little bulk that I see gathering near the cuticle, I'm just feathering it away and pulling it down. That's it. I barely touched it. See that? Barely touched it. And basically the cuticle area is done. Just feathering this one side. I mean, I can do that with the file, but it's done. Now I'm going to gather another little bead. This one might be a bit bigger. And I am holding it in there between 4 to 6 seconds. And I say that because depending on where you live or the temperature of your room or the humidity, all that kind of stuff, makes a difference a little. It's marginal, right? And I'm going to place that bead right there. See that little bead right there and how it's moving? It's still sort of absorbing together. But now that it's done, it's sort of sitting there now and waiting for me to tell it where to go. If your bead is running all over, don't be hard on yourself. That's all part of the learning. And every system can work a little bit different. You just have to know how that system is going to work for you. And then you can see I'm just feathering it out. Now I'm going to gather another bead. And I can put this bead wherever I want. I'm going to place this bead right there. Just remove that hair. So right there. And see how it's still moving a tiny little bit? Now I'm just going to coax it. And every time I leave the nail, I'm tapping off on my paper towel. And I use this blue towel so you can sort of see how much product I'm actually getting rid of. And I'm just coaxing it ever so gently of where I want it to be. Now see those little lumps and bumps? That's totally normal, especially when you're learning. That's okay, don't worry about it. Oh, you can fix all of that in the filing. And I'm going to show you another lump will be making a very nice, smoother bead. Now I'm going to get a bead. I'm going to put it where the apex would be, just to cover all in there. Just give it some nice strength, and I'm going to smooth this bead out over top of the whole nail. You can see how smooth it's going to make it. And again, if you don't have it nice and smooth, not to worry, it can all be smoothed out in the filing. It's a beautiful natural color. I love that. Okay, I'm going to do one more bead on the very end. Friendly little cat hair has made its way in there, and I am going to just make sure that I have enough thickness right to the very end so I have a nice strong nail. Now, if you're having difficulty creating beads, don't be hard on yourself. This is not easy to do. It just takes a bit of practice. Knowing your product and what it can do for you, you can do any design once you get that product control. Happy, you can make any nail that you want to, but you just must know your product and what it can do for you. Over the years that I've been teaching, this is always the method that I've taught. Liquid and powder is the #1 thing. And I found with all of my students over the years, the liquid and powder is the toughest to master. Once you do, you guys, it's so fun once you do. Okay, so that looks happy. And you know, if it's lumpy and bumpy, don't worry about it. We're gonna file it all out. That's what filing is all about. You can sculpt with the acrylic and you can sculpt with the file. You can sculpt a little with each. You can sculpt with the one and not the other. But mostly we just get it on there and we'll learn as we go, as we keep going and more experience. It just takes a little time with more experience, and the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. Okay, so how I clean my brush is I just soak it in the monomer, making sure there's no product in there. You don't want any cured, the mix of the liquid and the monomer inside there, like little beads of it. Make sure it's all out. Nothing's in there. Soak it in there, and you can just dab it off a little and then just pop it in the cap. You just pop it inside the cap, and that keeps it nice and soft and really kind of keeps it wet actually until you need to use it again. Okay, I'm gonna put these guys. Now, every time I'm filing, I always cover my powders because I don't want to get any, bits inside my brand new powders. Also, that little guy that you just made now, the new one, don't forget to write something down on there to show that what you've made with it, because it looks very similar to the others. Like, how do you tell the diff, right? So if you just make a little mention, you'll know exactly what you did with that guy. Okay. Throw that away. Doesn't smell, does it, cameraman?
No, not at all. I don't smell
He's got
anything.
a super sensitive nose and he can really smell stuff like that. So I wanted to mention, if you're not ready to put this on fingers or fake fingers or people or yourself or anything, I do have a worksheet. You can download this at nailcareer.com and you can work on a flatter surface and get used to the beads, all different designs and shapes until you're ready to take it to a fake hand or try your finger too. So in the drying process, because it doesn't have evaporation at a fast rate, you can't smell it. So it has a dispersion layer that rises to the surface. And among that, when it's totally dry, it'll have a sticky layer on top, not unlike gel polish or hard gel when you're working with it. Even though they're curing it under the light, it's cured, but it has a dispersion layer that comes to the top. And as you notice, gel doesn't smell either. It's basically the same. So we just wait for that to dry, basically. And then I can remove this. Now there's 2 ways you can get rid of that dispersion layer. You can file it off with a file. It's a bit gummy. I personally hate that. It's just so sticky. So all I do is rinse it under warm water for about a minute, and it pretty much dries it right up, cures the dispersion layer. So all you have to do is start filing. So that's what I'm going to go do now. Okay, so now I've run it under warm water for about 60 seconds, I guess, and now I just need to file it. I'm gonna get out my files. Put that back on there. Okay, so among the files that I'm using, I've got lots of videos on filing. I think, Karen, can you have a playlist or something? He was explaining this to me. I'm not technical.
I made a playlist, so I'll put a card up above, over on the top right, and I'll also have a link in the description for those who prefer that.
So a playlist is like a collection of like all the filing techniques that I have?
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect. Can we do that with the collection as well then? All the nails that I'm making with my collection, so it's all in one area?
I will be doing that, yes.
I love technical stuff, but I don't know how to do it. I just stick with nails. Okay, so I've got my course file, and whenever I start attacking filing first, I always kind of find my shape or thereabout, right? So I will go down the one side of the nail and sort of bring it into that Susie point. And I'll go down the other side and I sort of find my shape along that one as well. Let me get me glasses, I do need them for this. Well, I do need it for all of it, don't I? And then I will go underneath and make sure I bring it all up so it's not drooping under. Sometimes to get that curve, if you shape them really good with the form, you will get a nice curve under there. And I want to bring a little bit, just want to smooth it out from underneath. And now I'm really starting to fine tune the shape a little bit more. So I'll do that first, and then I will attack the top part. And that is going on top of the whole thing, starting at the cuticle, right to the tip, to make that nice apex, get nice strength in there. Okay, so I've filed it all up. Now I'm just taking my sanding sponge and I'm just smoothing it nice. Great. Okay. Now you could just smooth it up with the other sponge that I have in here and making it nice. Well, let me just show you. I'm just giving you an option for a very natural look. You could take the Smooth and Shine and take the green side and you can buff it up. You can do this with your natural nails too, actually. For those of you who may not know that. And then this file is actually pretty special because once I flip it over to the white side, watch what happens. Okay, here we go. See that? I just did the one side. See how shiny it is? You can do it with the other side. You can hear it.
Squeaky.
Yeah. Right? And so if you're going for more of a natural, you don't want a top coat on there, you could just do that and you could be on your way and just leave it just like that. Anyway, I will put a top coat on it, but to show the natural beauty of a fake nail, check out the reveal pictures. love it. It's so beautiful, so natural. It just looks great. Thank you for joining me, you guys. And I really have to thank each and every one of you who are believing in me and buying my product, watching my videos, to those attending my classes, watching me on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much for all your support. And none of this, I would be doing any of it if it wasn't for you guys. So I have to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.